Now, everything till now still counts. And if you're ever going to use an authentic self-empowerment process as a way of helping your clients to overcome their challenges, let's say instead of one of the techniques you've learned so far, then what you've learned so far still applies. You're still going to elicit issue, you're still going to elicit outcome, you're still going to remember that you want to break state between the elicitation of issue and outcome. And then you might say, now we're going to do this closed eye process, and you're going to use your Ericksonian language to induce a state of relaxed receptivity. And then begins the ASE process. So you're going to find that this has application to both coaching and therapeutic approaches. That's why we call it the facilitator training, because you're facilitating processes for the client to have their own inner experience. It doesn't belong to exclusively the coaching domain or the hypnotherapy domain, although it is well suited to both. And I'm going to teach you the basic forms of different ASE processes, and then after each process you're going to see in your manual there is a short form which is often just as effective and something you can bring into a coaching intervention without having the client close their eyes and do something that's more hypnotherapeutic. And then after even the short form, each of those basic ASE methods has its conversational application, which is just a few bullet point phrases, which works very well in HNLP coaching. They're lovely language patterns that will support you in your coaching endeavors that don't require any eye closure at all. But they certainly will elicit a TDS, an inner search for meaning, as the clients give meaning to what you have asked them to do. So they're processes that shift attention. They shift attention inward, and they shift attention inward to resources, not just inward, and then rely on you to do other things to help clients connect with inner resources. They're language patterns that shift attention from outer distractions and problems to insight into the unconscious and straight into the relevant resources, and then the language pattern brings them back out with resource in awareness. And that's all facilitated in a couple of phrases. So that should be exciting, to know that you'll have language available to you to do that. So that's why I've been saying since the beginning, this applies to everything you've learned so far, will enrich your ability as a coach and as a hypnotherapist. But if you just used the basic ASE method, and that was the only thing you ever did, and that's easy to remember, or just to read in your manual because it's a full-on script, there you go. You've got what it takes. And then you can keep adding to that with practice and familiarity over time, all the other bits. Okay, so it was Einstein himself, as per the wall chart at the back there, who said our significant problems that we experience cannot be dealt with in the same level of thinking with which we have created them. I don't know if you've ever really considered the magnitude of those words. The significant problems that we face cannot be resolved with the same level of thinking with which we have created them. It presupposes that, of course, we have created our problems, which is in complete alignment with what we know in NLP. It is our internal subjective experiences, how we perceive reality, that creates a problem. Reality is not a problem. It's the beliefs and the values and the attitudes that we bring to the experience that make it into a problem. If those beliefs and values and attitudes are such that they put us into an unresourceful state and result in unresourceful behaviors. Okay? That's what the problem is. We need to argue with our reality for it to be a problem when we don't. And here's the thing. We create them because of the perceptions that we have. The kind of thinking, says Einstein, that we have creates the problem. So we have to change the kind of thinking that we're using. We have to go beyond, is what he's suggesting. We have to go beyond the kind of thinking that we're using. And what is that process of going beyond? And I really contemplated deeply what that might be. And it was just another one of those daily meditations. I didn't plan for it to be one of the most profound I would ever have in my life, but it did become one. An extremely deep meditation. And born out of this meditation was an insight that has led to the development of the authentic self-empowerment approach. And this insight was of me going to the future, being transported beyond time to a space beyond time, literally going forward and seeing my sort of future successful self, but a future successful self that existed not 10 or 20 or 30 or 50 or even 100 or 200 years from now. It was beyond that. Yet there was still a representation of my future self as a mature man. And this future representation of myself showed me many things and revealed answers and resolved anything that was a challenge in my life at the time, and was intensely enlightening. And beyond that, revealed a method, a way of accessing that state. The actual skill of going to the future, visiting a future successful self, and even going beyond that to a timeless zone that's beyond the future, so to speak. And I came back extremely excited from this journey and came out of the meditation and immediately started writing. And that became the first rough draft for the first authentic self-empowerment method, which is not the basic method. It is in fact the method that I teach. It's been refined since then, but it's the method that I teach in the Mind Over Matter recording, which is called future sourcing in this manual. Okay, that was the first method that I became aware of through personal insight. Of course, it supported many of my NLP and HLP learnings and has been strengthened and refined over the years in my continual studies that integrate many of the approaches from Time-Line Therapy. Time-Line Therapy is a method created by an NLP trainer called Tad James, who, based on his studying of Erickson's work and NLP submodalities, created Time-Line Therapy. And Time-Line Therapy is an additional modality taught at certain NLP trainings by NLP trainers that have been trained by Tad James in his preferred method. And Time-Line Therapy leverages this idea of timelines, whereby in Time-Line Therapy you would, in a problem situation, float up above your experience and look at the experience and see a timeline, and you have to imagine a timeline from the present going back to the past. And you literally have to see that timeline like a path, a road, or whatever type of image you'd need to bring to mind. And then you have to imagine floating, totally dissociated from your current experience, floating along a timeline. You have to imagine that there's this road or path or whatever it might be for you, a string or whatever you'd like to imagine, going back into the past and connecting to the root cause of whatever the problem experience is, through identifying it along your timeline, some place back there in your past. And many NLP practitioners became very fond of this technique. They liked the way it worked for them, and they've got good results with clients. I can imagine stuff like that. I can bring it to mind and entertain the idea, but I've never been able to accurately elicit, like many others, the original root cause experience. And I found out why through my own insight. It is because through dissociating from the emotion of the current experience that is a problem in my life, dissociating from that as the first starting point, and now floating back along an imagined, visualized timeline, I'm not in touch with the feeling of the problem anymore. I'm not in touch with the state, which is the issue I'm currently experiencing in my life. Now, if I want to heal that, I have to imagine that I find some solution. I just have to go with an impression that comes to mind that has nothing to do with the energy of the unwanted problem, with the state that I feel in my body. And so I'd have to imagine root causal problems. And it just lends itself to false interpretation. So many clients would go, oh, yeah, I'm seeing this, and they'd some excited people that believe in past lives would get very attached to, I'm floating all the way back and there's this past life experience, and they're imagining all this stuff. For them, that metaphor was empowering and healing, and they got good results. What Erickson preferred, which I've reverted to as the method of choice when doing any kind of regression, or let's just call it any kind of establishing what the root cause of a problem in life is, get in touch with the feeling as you feel it now. You're in touch with it anyway. That's why it's a problem in your life. You can feel the unwanted state in your body in a difficult situation. And allow the intelligence of your body, which is the unconscious, to, through having this take this emotional reaction, the feeling, take your awareness all the way back to its own root. Let the feeling itself guide you to where the feeling comes from, the first time it was felt in your being. And then clients very spontaneously go straight back to the relevant root cause that the energy that's felt in their body remembers. The body remembers this feeling and goes straight back to where it comes from. And they go there spontaneously and very swiftly, and it's always accurate. And that's when it's used as an approach to healing the root cause. Timeline therapy also used a process of progression, going to the future, but in exactly the same way, imagining a path going into your future or some kind of timeline. Authentic self-empowerment took the form of going more in the body, feeling the inner guidance of intense states and following them as beacons to wherever you need to go. And then, once you've elicited pertinent information, it goes for a dissociation. Now, when the first astronauts went to space and looked back from beyond the Earth's atmosphere at this serenely green and blue planet rotating there amongst the other stars and the moon and the planets beyond, they had epiphanies, enlightening experiences in seeing our place in the universe, in seeing this gorgeous planet with no boundaries, just land mass and water mass, where all of humanity existed as a global population. No boundaries, no separation, no cultural differences, just planet Earth and its inhabitants as one, in the context of the greater universe around it. Mind-blowing experiences that brought those astronauts back, changed. And many of them have gone on to become inspirational speakers because of their mind-expanding experiences that they've had, being in outer space and looking at how small we really are. If you think about life in the totality of the universe, it stands to reason that there probably is life out there. An infinite amount of life expressions going on in the universe around us at this very given moment. And yet we make such a big deal of our problems, our little problems, that in the greater scheme of things are insignificant. But they're profoundly significant to us in the moments that they happen. Yet, in the moment that we're having a chunked down experience of a specific thing that we call a problem, in that very moment, if you can chunk it up to what the astronauts called the overview effect, then in that very moment, your perceptions are changed. And when you can bring the overview effect to the problem context, I have found it to be one massive reframe that is not really a reframe, it's a deframe. It blows the boundaries of the problem. And so this overview effect, having not just a fly-on-the-wall perspective, but a universal perspective of you and your life, and there, in that lifetime that you're experiencing, there on that little planet, bringing that kind of broader perspective to the challenges that we face transforms them significantly, because it just helps them to put them into perspective of what's really going on in existence at that moment. Authentic self-empowerment does not only include going to the past to heal root causes and going to the future to get information from our future successful selves that have already dealt with our problems in their past. It includes this overview effect of going out and having a dramatically dissociated experience where we feel intimately connected with life in the greater scheme of things. So we don't dissociate from feelings. We associate with our authentic self before it has given form to an experience. We go into a formless state, a beyond form experience that is beyond space and time. So the guided process includes the potential to have an experience beyond space and time. And if you're having an experience beyond space and time, you definitely don't have a problem in that experience. And if you can gather information, figuratively speaking, from a beyond space and time broad perspective of your life as a whole, and bring that level of awareness into the context where you, down in that one little lifetime, are having a problem, it really does change things in a significant way. It's deeply healing for the body. It's a very embodied experience that becomes expanded and then contracts again into this shape and form. We don't actually imagine going out there. We imagine as we are expanding until all of that is out there is not out there but is within us. So yes, it's dissociation, but it's different. Our experience of self expands to include the universe and whatever is there for us to experience as ongoing, unfolding experiences happening continuously within the larger experience of ourself, the authentic experience of self. And that kind of perspective then brought into the challenging context is deeply transformative. And those are the kinds of things you can expect through the following guided processes. That's where we're going.